Welcome back. I'm here today with Dillip Goswami. He is the founder of Molekule. Dillip, welcome to today's show.
Thank you for having me.
So Dillip, for the listeners, can you give background how you got started, your education, and what led you into becoming the entrepreneur that you are today?
Sure. So we're a company that's based on science, and so unsurprisingly, my story has a lot of science in it. But my background, educationally, I did my undergrad in electrical engineering from University of Florida, and then I did my master's in electrical engineering as well from Stanford. I was actually working on my PhD when I decided to jump out from Stanford and start the company. So that's a little bit about my background.
Was this a project, the white paper that you were doing for the PhD, or what?
No, so it was a little bit unrelated. It's very much related to actually my personal life. So, I'm somebody who suffers from asthma and allergies, and it was very severe as I was growing up, and it became a little bit better over time. As an adult, I learned to adopt different lifestyle changes to help manage it, and was on, I've been constantly on a regimen of drugs to help manage it. But fundamentally, that asthma is triggered by, different pollutants that are there in the air. And when my body sees those triggers, it reacts. And so, my father, who's actually an expert, a scientist in the field of solar energy, he looked at that problem when I was growing up, not just as a parent, but also as a scientist, and thought, well, something needs to be done to get rid of those pollutants that are causing all these problems. And so that started him on a kind of a 20-year journey of research. The last 5 years, of that journey, I was actually working with him on that research as well, separately from my PhD, which was on, somewhat related topic, but nothing directly applicable. But that training, that scientific training, helped me to be able to support him and help him come up with new ideas, until we finally got it to a point where it was really helping me, and then we decided to form a company so that it could go out and help other people.
With the advancements of technology, burning of all the fossil fuels and the coals, and you can see in the air today when you're, especially on an airplane flying over the country,
right, there
is a definite layer of film that we breathe, but we're in the middle of the soup, so we can't see what's going on. Yeah,
actually, it's an interesting thing because people tend to think of air pollution as an overseas problem, but according to the WHO, 56% of cities in the developed world actually don't meet their guidelines for in terms of their standards for air quality. And then, that's a further compounded problem because indoors, according to the EPA, air is 5 times more polluted than air outdoors. We just concentrate all that stuff that's pollution outside indoors. And so, that's the problem that I dealt with growing up. And it was only until we started really getting into researching it that we realized, how big of a problem it was here and how that was exacerbating and causing all of these different symptoms that myself and so many others suffer from.
So why a new company? Why this new technology? One could say, well, Dillip, why don't you just go down the store and buy an air filter and run that? How do you differentiate what you're putting out now versus what's on the market?
Well, we did. Our first solution was, well, let's try and get something off the shelf, right? You don't want to have to go through all the work of inventing a new technology if you can just buy something that's going to solve your problem. And the problem that we found was that the air filters that are out today, the standard is called the HEPA filter. And the HEPA filter was originally invented way back in the 1940s as part of the Manhattan Project. They were trying to capture radioactive dust. And the problem is the pollutants that trigger all these different symptoms, they're microscopic and they're very different from just dust. I mean, if you think of, for example, a mold spore, right? Mold can often trigger allergies and a whole host of problems in people. And mold will just grow right onto a filter. And it's not just mold, but there's also bacteria. Even when they get captured on the filter, they can die and release endotoxins. And then there's some stuff that pass right through, like viruses and gaseous chemicals known as VOCs. So there's this whole range of different pollutants that the HEPA filter didn't deal with, and those were still causing the problem. So, the answer is that we tried out a number of solutions, and we realized that something fundamental had to be done in order to come up with something that can actually help our symptoms. And
Dillip, I need to take a quick break.
Okay.
I'm visiting here today with Dillip Goswami. He is the founder of Molekule, and we'll be right back after these messages.
I love fishing, with my family.
I think it would be easier to use a net.
It was so much fun.
The times when we are together, it makes it all the more worth it.
Having Dad teach them how to cast a fly rod, and
as long as we're doing stuff together, we're having fun.
Some people see a father and a son fishing together, while others see a succession plan. Welcome back. I'm here today with Dillip Goswami. He is the founder of Molekule. And Dillip, before on the first segment, we're talking about some of the areas that your purifier addresses, such as the HEPA did not effectively take care of mold, and this new purifier will, be more thorough in taking the pollutants and the mold and the dust from the air. But you started this project out of the fact that you're trying to deal with some asthma issues in your personal life. But how do I know if I need a purifier? Really, who is this product for?
Sure. So for some people, it's a really easy answer. If you have asthma or allergies, this is definitely something that we believe, based on the evidence that we've seen so far, that can have a real impact in your life. But even beyond that, if you look at how we as a society look at food and water, right? There was a time when we would just eat anything or drink water as long as it was okay. But we've come to a certain standard that we're accepting. Like when it comes to food, we're looking for organic food. When it comes to water, we want to make sure that water is pure. We've seen what happens, in places like Flint, unfortunately, when that water is not up to our standard, right? But air is one field where we haven't really demanded to have clean air. I mean, if you think about it, the people with asthma and allergies, they're like the canaries in the coal mine, because they can immediately tell you when something is wrong because they have direct symptoms. But all of us are affected. I mean, there's more. You breathe more air than you are in terms of mass than you're eating food or drinking water. So it has a really profound effect on our bodies. And I think we're only now just waking up to realizing how much better it can be, because now we've got new technologies.
So when you're applying solar, how does the application of solar into this system make it work?
Sure. So analogy we like to use to explain the system is actually a solar cell. So when you have a solar cell and light shines on that solar cell, we absorb the energy of that light and extract it as electricity. When it comes to our device, we have that same principle. We have light that shines on a special nano-coated surface. And when that nano-coated surface sees the light, instead of extracting that energy, we actually use that energy to fuel a chemical reaction that breaks down the pollutants. So the minute that, let's say, for example, a mold spore or a gaseous chemical like methane or toluene, when it comes into our device and it interacts with that nano-coated surface, it's getting broken apart into its base elements, stuff like CO2, water, stuff that's in your air already and safe to breathe.
So when we look at the outdoor pollution today, I want to go through. You mentioned something about that 56% of the major cities worldwide,
right,
have extremely high levels today. And I know that in the U.S., within the last 8 years, they've shut down a number of coal mines with the concern of, what it was effectively doing to the air. But how can outdoor pollution affect the quality of the air that's indoors?
So what happens is that our air handling systems actually pull in air from the outdoors, and outdoors, what happens is that there's wind and pressure that help that pollution diffuse. But once it gets pulled in indoors, there's nothing to help get rid of it. Right? There's no wind, there's no atmosphere for it to diffuse into. So everything gets concentrated indoors. And then the other piece is that we're bringing in other things that are polluting the indoors. So, for example, any new building materials, like you think about when you put in a new carpet in a place and how that smell that you're getting. Those are all chemicals that these things are being treated with that are then outgassing into your indoor air atmosphere. And that indoor atmosphere is, we try to make really tight envelopes to make sure that we're energy efficient. But unfortunately, that means that pollutants get trapped indoors.
So Dillip, I need to take a quick break.
Sure.
And I'm visiting here today with Dillip Goswami. He is the founder of Molekule. We'll be right back after these messages. Since you can't take your wealth with you, spend time with your family. Welcome back. I'm here today with Dillip Goswami. He is the founder of Molekule. It's a company that's getting ready to launch product, the next generation of air purifiers. And just for the listeners, right now you're still in beta test, or?
Sure. So we've taken a few pre-orders, very limited batches, because we're really focused on delivering a product with high quality and delivering that product on time. And so we will be opening another very small batch of pre-orders sometime in the future. But stay tuned and check out our website. We have a wait list forming for orders and for the launch as well.
Perfect. Okay. So moving forward then. You touched on the prior segment that your dad is a renowned scientist in the area of solar, and this technology is based on solar, using solar power to help to clean the molecules out there.
Right.
Maybe touching on your dad has in this field. He was initially bringing this about to help solve the asthma problem that you're having?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, he looked at that problem and then he looked at the existing solutions that are out there. So he's a scientist, right? So he starts initially from a perspective of, okay, let me try and solve some of these problems and put the research out there and hope that people run with it. And so he did some initial research in this area. He came up with some new technologies and he put them out there, and he saw that the market was still kind of running with the same old commodity technologies because they saw that people were willing to buy them. And so that's when he decided that, okay, he needs to go through this time and not just kind of start the movement, but follow through, develop the real commercializable technology, and then we took up that thread and built it into a real product that can help people.
Now, I understand the Department of Defense has some interest in the technology you're doing.
Sure, yeah. So we've received funding in the past from both the Department of Defense and the EPA, and federal funding has always been helpful. It's very important at the foundational level to fund science and to get it from that point where it's just something that's a very lab bench type technology to something that's really applicable in the real world. And so the Department of Defense was concerned about a number of things. Ranging from just kind of having clean atmospheres in their for their personnel, up to being able to protect them from chemical and biological threats. And so because our technology is agnostic in terms of the type of pollutant, we can break down a range of chemical threats. We can break down biological threats such as anthrax and a number of other viruses. So that's where the interest came on that side.
It's amazing that, thinking that the HEPA filter came about with the Manhattan Project back in the 40s.
Yeah.
And here we are some 50 plus years later, finally getting to the next level of technology here with
right.
solar. But this thing will go across the board, not only just to the pollutants in the air, but radiation, will it hit on that, or what?
No, so and radiation is not a major concern for us. So we're not trying to address it with this technology, but it's kind of the full spectrum of pollutants that you'll see indoors.
Yeah. Okay.
And who knows? Someday we may be able to take it hopefully outdoors and solve some of the major problems that we've got going on with climate.
Now, Dillip, it's your dad. I'm going to come back. He has quite a story to tell of life wasn't easy in the early days, was it?
No. Yeah, so my father's story is he originally came as a refugee to India. Their family during basically pre-independence India, they were living in a part of India that's now Pakistan. So they migrated from there to Delhi, and something that that I think helps shape us as entrepreneurs later on, because what we've seen is that kind of indomitable spirit of just conquering, looking at any obstacle and not thinking of it as a big deal, but just looking at it as yet another step in your journey. And so having that perspective in your life helps prepare you for the types of struggles you might see as an entrepreneur, where okay, if you know that your previous generations have been through that, then it doesn't seem as your challenges that you're facing today don't seem as difficult. You realize there's always a solution, there's always something you can do in these various situations. So having that background has really shaped, it's certainly, I think, been a key perspective for him, but it's also been something that he's passed on to us, his children, in terms of how it's shaped our lives as well.
I think it's important at this point you just made, that having that point B in your life, you're at point A, and if it's not going to happen if you don't will it to happen.
Right, yeah.
And to overcome challenges and obstacles in life. Every entrepreneur, their successes and their failures teach them.
Right.
And but being able to work through the obstacles and overcome the problem help us to get to the next level.
Yeah, and I think there's another piece to that, which is it's important to be open to learn the lesson when something isn't working. It's really difficult because as an entrepreneur, you're so invested in the success of what you're doing that your emotions and your other things sometimes can cloud you from seeing that lesson. And having a little bit of perspective, being able to step back and saying like, okay, well, this is not the toughest thing that I faced. There are people out there facing tougher things. Let me just calm down and let's approach this situation, looking for a solution and kind of be able to divorce yourself a little bit from that level of personal investment and look at it objectively, certainly has helped me as an entrepreneur in terms of learning those lessons when they need to be learned.
Yeah, so Dillip, one unit, about what area of square footage will it cover?
So the unit that we're bringing out covers 600 square feet of area. So and it's portable, so you can move it around to different spaces if you have a larger space. And
is it like a portable air conditioner, or does it just do everything? Is it confined to just within the room, so the air comes in and goes out? You just wipe the filters clean, or? Sure,
it's a self-contained unit. So so it's continuously circulating the air in the space that it's in. And it has actually two filters. So there's the nano filter that has our special technology that breaks down the pollutants, and so that you don't need to wipe clean it. It's continuously breaking down the pollution that it's seeing. And then there's a pre-filter that gets rid of like the gross dust part, like the really large-sized dust particles, things like pet hair. We've got a number of beta testers that have many pets, and so that takes care of that stuff. And then the really small particles we break up with a nano filter.
For more information in your company, where does the person go?
So you go to molekule.com. That's molecule spelled with a K, not with a C.
Okay, Dillip, thanks for being on today's show.
Thank you.